we are officially going to be sponsored by GoPuff because we have discovered the Good Eatin' brand, which is founded by Phoenix Suns superstar Chris Paul, where they make vegan snacks, since he is himself a practicing vegan. And Melissa and I, it is exclusive to GoPuff. You cannot get it anywhere else.
Really?
So you've got to order it. And yes, so it has now become like the eager anticipatory watch to see when we can get the nacho cheese Good Eatin' back. Because, they're exquisite. Absolutely delightful and supremely tasty. Plus, if you're, trying to avoid dairy nonsense, then it's...
Oh, yeah. So
it's a good way to go.
So I have to ask, because it's been a while since I've done anything vegan or vegetarian, how's the vegan cheese? Have people improved that yet? Is it good now?
It depends on the brand, but yeah, there are some extraordinary vegan cheese. There's actually some extraordinary vegan cream cheese, even, if you want to go so far. Yeah, it's we are in a whole new reality these days. There are enough people who are plant-based, and I do say that knowing full well, diagram that sentence, and it's disgusting.
Of course.
But yes, there are enough folks who are functioning on a plant-based diet that, yeah, you're going to find some quality stuff. It just depends on your personal preferences, really, more often than not. But yeah, the Daya brand I have enjoyed immensely, and there's a Vitalife, which I think their cream cheese is extraordinary. So you can get crazy with it.
Okay. Now,
but yeah, we are officially sponsored. I'm calling it out here. Whether or not they're not giving us money, but I have bought enough of their material because they have both sweet and savory snacks. So they have like vegan pork rinds, which are barbecue flavored, and then they have like a cucumber ranch chip, which is they're basically aping popular snack foods.
Of course,
but then
but
they have a cinnamon sugar kind of churro, which is just They call them mini donuts, but it's basically a longer kind of churro shaped. They also have a spicy cheese puff as well. If you're into the, we're not saying the other brands they're aping here, but
of course,
if you're inclined, you can rock that as well. So yeah, it's quite wonderful.
Okay, I can dig it.
Melissa had joked that I was going to have to say that we were sponsored, and so I've decided. Here we are.
But yeah.
Thanks, Chris Paul.
I mean, as someone living out on the edges of civilization, we were pretty ecstatic when they finally started saying that GoPuff will deliver out here. So it's nice being out in the boonies and having GoPuff whenever we feel like it. So
well, when you get that first care package, just fraught with all the vegan goodies, you're barely going to be able to contain yourself.
Ooh, I can barely contain myself now.
Same here. That's why I got to buy a new belt. But, that's... I refuse to be contained.
None shall contain me. No belt shall hold me back.
And speaking of busting at the seams by the eternal, behold and watch your eyes. It is, in fact, the Disinformed podcast. I'm Shane.
And I'm Michael.
And we're sending our love, our thoughts, and general consideration for several other co-hosts here. All kidding aside, some folks are dealing with some very interesting circumstances presently. So I just want to send our warmest regards and let everybody know we're thinking about you, we miss you, and we hope you're having a better situation presently as you listen, hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
Yes. So we're going to try to carry on with a bit of frivolity here because that is what we're here for. We're dyed-in-the-wool absolute lunatics, and that's guaranteed, particularly when we have a show that is going to be released on All Hallows Eve.
Yes.
I mean, how do you get through that?
Ooh, with a lot of any sort of soporific. I never.
What? Huh?
Soporific.
Soporific, yes.
Yes! It took me a couple of tries, but
not
I got it.
Sephora. Don't go buy, that makeup to wear as Kate's makeup. Yeah, don't do that. It's if you want to be a clown, Mimi Van Doren it. Go just grab random stuff in Walmart. Don't go to Sephora.
No.
Yeah.
Too highbrow for me. Too highbrow.
Yeah, as an individual who had to wander through the aisles of that with a girlfriend one time, I did not feel comfortable there at all.
I need an adult.
Yeah, I was the least aesthetically pleasing person I think that had ever trespassed the doors of the Sephora. They were looking at me like they wanted to chop me up and make me into soap. But yeah, it's just a strange set of circumstances.
I feel like that's what I shoot for, is to be the least aesthetically pleasing person in any room.
Okay, well, we're in a competition, so stop inviting me to things.
Oh, no.
But everybody there looked very surprised for no reason, and yet had no ability to register any other expressions. It was all just kind of...
Oh, what are you doing here? I can be
like
here if I want.
Their forehead was running away from their, cheeks and chin. I don't know what was happening. It's strange. Nary a wrinkle in sight, though, strangely enough. But speaking of wrinkles, we've got a few this evening, because whereas typically what we do on this show is to delve into random esoterica and lie about it whilst explaining it to all of you lovely listeners, we're going to veer ever so slightly. And I'm not even going to be coy, because Michael knows what we're talking about, and I'm sure that you've been, much like me with a belt, you've been scarce able to suppress your enthusiasm.
So I had mentioned a long time ago that I had tried doing an entire filmography of the person we're going to be talking about, but I gave up on that when I realized it wouldn't be very interesting. So how you're going about it is going to be much more interesting and a lot more hilarious than how I was going to go about it.
Okay, now when you said it initially, it made it sound like you were going to watch the entire filmography.
Oh, good
as
Lord.
Opposed to just chronicle, and I was like... That would not be uninteresting, as evidenced by what we're going to talk about. There's plenty of undulating waves here.
Oh, man.
But if you're listening, you've seen the title of the show thus far. Mm-hmm. So we are going to be discussing the filmic works of one Nicolas Cage. But we're going to amend it slightly so that we fit our format in the new amended approach that we have here for our new games that we play. So we joked about this. John and I kind of proposed something fairly similar, of that John wanted to give some a synopsis of a film and see whether Michael could guess what the film was. And that sounded entertaining, but then I thought, let's make this more appropriate to who we are. And let's say I'm going to give a list of films, and Michael has to determine whether Nicolas Cage is actually in this movie or not. And so that is the game we're playing this evening. Much like Florida Man, yes or no, this is going to be Nicolas Cage or no, Nick or no, if you will. And I'm supremely excited. So what the format is I'm going to read Michael the plot synopsis. I'm not going to tell him the title of the film, nor when it is released. If we need some hints, I will then start by parsing out the year that the film was released. Hopefully that's going to run, but I'm not guaranteeing that I'm not lying about these either.
Of course.
You got to keep it, because, I mean, if it's a film from 1942, we've got a pretty good odd that we're not going to have Nicolas Cage starring in that. So, do you have questions for me before we get going?
Nope. I'm ready. I am presenting. I am able as I could.
As we have established, you are most certainly a devotee of Nicolas Cage. You have consumed an untold number of his films.
Yeah, if I haven't watched it, then I've definitely tried enjoying it through other mediums.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
What, like a vibrator seat or Bad Dragon?
Oh, man. Going through something like Vampire's Kiss when he's just like through a vibrator every time he's screaming.
You'd be gone in 60 seconds, apparently.
Oh, man. The hype scene when he's getting ready for all that, the whole heist at the end, the third act. Ooh, that vibrator is just going off the chain. Indeed.
Do you keep one on a chain at some point?
Well, for that movie, yes.
Okay, I was going to say, we've already established that your fiance wears a dog collar, so a chain must just be your kink.
It's like, and you know how a lot of people have, just a ring of keys? It's like that. But it's all different types of chains and everything.
So your sex life is the Stanford Prison Experiment, Volume 2.
Without any beds at all. Yes, you're right.
Yes, everybody's wearing a dress. No one gets to shower. And we're probably going to be sprayed with flame-retardant chemicals at some point.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sponsored by a university, so there you go.
I didn't say that. I'm not even here right now.
Is that a lie or not? Tune in next week to not find out, because I won't actually say.
Yeah, nor should you.
No.
Okay, so as of right now, I believe I have 15. We'll see how involved we have to get. I'm not guaranteeing we get through all of these, but I figure obviously you're going to display your prowess as you did with Florida Man and talk about how pedestrian the role is for Nicolas Cage or not. But I'm sure you're familiar enough that you can probably suss out what the keystones are for a good filmic performance from our friend Nicolas.
Yeah.
It's one of those things I'm agog constantly when I think about the fact that he is, in fact, a Coppola.
Yes.
And it just boggles the mind.
Well, it's because he has specifically distanced himself from that
well,
because
yeah,
he doesn't want people
you don't want to
be
ride coattails.
Exactly. That, like, he probably had, some connections already to help him get in, but he wanted to make sure that it wasn't just because of that. He wanted to be judged on his, talents alone.
And own merits, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Not an inconsiderable amount of talent either, as we've learned from a most recent documentary. But all right.
Movie.
So we're going to plunge in here with number 1. Tom Wells, Nicolas Cage, is a surveillance expert on the rise. He's living the American dream with a wife, Amy, infant daughter, and a house in the suburbs of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. After the completion of an assignment for a U.S. senator, Wells is summoned to the house of a recently deceased captain of industry. There's a phrase you hear frequently. His widow, in settling his estate, has discovered an 8mm film in her late husband's private safe. The silent short depicts the apparent murder of a young woman by a large masked figure in what is known as a snuff film. Greatly disturbed by the film's contents, the widow hires Wells to find the identity of the woman to determine if she is still alive. I can see that you have a lot of reactions happening, so tell me, what's rattling around in the brain?
It's based off of something that I did research on for a prior episode, but I can't remember exactly what it was on.
Okay.
Did you finish the synopsis?
There's still a bit. Some of these are very thorough. So like the site that I am pulling most of this material from is allmovie.com, which if you want something for good references, IMDb has nothing on this thing because it mostly like IMDb is giving you actors reference so that you can track people largely. This is actually giving you film synopsis, grosses. So it runs through very expansive and thoroughly explanatory details about many films. So some of these things are like 8 or 9 paragraphs. They run through a very lengthy gambit of explaining what the film is. So still have a little more here. So, Wells does find the girl's identity and follows her trail from the time she ran away from home to Hollywood. Once there, Wells meets adult bookstore clerk Max California, and there's a character name that I'm just delighted by.
Is that name real?
That is real. That is the character name. So I have not made any of this stuff up. I have altered facts in order to reflect that, again, because I'm crediting Nicolas Cage in all these movies. But all of these are appropriate film plots. No character names have been changed. I'm giving you straight poop the whole time here. So, all right. Max California acts as Virgil to Wells's Dante. So we're getting
words, not you?
Their words, not mine.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
As the two begin their descent into the world of underground pornography, and unfortunately we're missing the person whose buttons would be officially pushed by this, the detective grows more and more distant from his family, as if he cannot shake the taint, poor choice of words, of the... he can shake the taint. We all can.
He can.
That's called twerking. But... He cannot shake the taint of the world in which he now walks. Tom and Max eventually meet pornographers Dino Velvet and Eddie Poole. Together they run Velvet Poole and Associates. It's really fantastic. And then by the time the detective finds he can no longer walk out of of the Inferno.
Not with that attitude.
And not with that taint, apparently. It's a little too chafed.
With that taint, you won't be able to walk for days.
Tainted by the fruit of another.
Oh, no.
That's tempted. I'm sorry. I got distracted.
Tainted by the taint of another?
I'm pulling muscles from a shell. But, all right. So, does this sound to you like Nicolas Cage is starring in this film?
I'm going to say no.
Okay. And why would you say that, Michael, from your extensive experience and assimilation of his filmic oeuvre?
It almost sounded like a different movie that he actually was in the 90s, where he played. It was one of the scenes when people like categorize his like freak out scenes.
Yes,
it's the one where he's kind of dressed up like almost like a porn star of some sort, where he flings himself on the bed and he just starts like screaming and pounding his fists like a straight up 2-year-old tantrum. And then he also like punches some guy in the face in the background of a bar.
I mean, he does that all the time.
Fucking yeah! And he actually yells that, and that's his like karate chop ability. But I can't remember the name of that movie, but it sounds similar, but I don't think that's the movie. So I'm going to say he's not in this movie.
Okay. Is that your final answer?
You're making me doubt myself, but you know what? All in or nothing.
All in.
Yeah.
Okay. This film is from, I messed up because I included, granted, the title is in the description of the film here because it is an 8mm film. The film is entitled 8mm, and this is from 1999, and it does in fact star Nicolas Cage.
Oh no.
Also co-stars Joaquin Phoenix, who plays the adult bookstore clerk Max California. And the two pornographers are Peter Stormare and James Gandolfini, rest in R.I.P. and pepperonis, as the pornographers. So I haven't watched this film in a long time. It was one that definitely impacted me. It is from the height of the Nicolas Cage wave as it was cresting, because it was when he was making like City of Angels, and in that sort of run, he just finished The Rock in 97. So I think like Rock 97, City of Angels 98. This was 99. So it's right as he was just the big name in Hollywood, and was actually one of the top 10 grossing actors of this time frame as well. So for this decade, there were several years where he was in the top 10 of all grossing paid actors at the very least.
Yeah, because this was definitely before National Treasure, because National Treasure was in
that
like,
was like
the
2002.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I feel like this is his kind of depreciation. Like that was kind of his start. For at least
we'll get there.
Yeah, I mean he's like a roller coaster. He's had a lot of rises, a lot of falls, but I feel like that is kind of one of those first like depreciations where people just didn't understand or really didn't want him in a lot of things. Yeah,
we are in the second renaissance of Nicolas Cage, which is just quite delightful. Here's the funny thing. So to tangentialize, because that's what we do. So I've been doing these various sort of trivia matters, and some of them are the top 10 grossing actors for decades. Ooh, I've noticed, I was discussing this with Superfan Steven fairly recently, that you notice a lot of trends. So in the 70s, the introductory phase of like Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, they were both very high grossing. You get Sylvester Stallone in that era as well. And then they disappear completely for the 80s. Like they are not making, as far as like the big budget kind of grosser films, they're not listed in the major sort of like dollar raconteurs at the time. And then all of a sudden, late 90s or mid to late 90s, early aughts, they're back in the rotation again. So it's as though there are these weird sort of waves of popularity. Is the Jim Cornettism, how do I miss you if you don't go away kind of thing.
Exactly. So
there's a lot of this.
There's like a sort of nostalgia, like sort of delay where every about 20 some odd years, things that were popular come back into vogue. And that's why you have, I mean, even nowadays, because that's still definitely a reoccurring thing. A couple of years ago, you had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You had the Transformers starting in the mid-aughts. Those are just, I mean, even the more recent ones where you have, I think there was recently announced that there's going to be another Indiana Jones movie. And you have like these people. I mean, Bad Boys.
Yeah.
As another example where you just have these movies that were either popular in the 70s or 90s that are coming back. I think they announced Creed 3 recently as well.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So,
what's funny is that you also hit these sort of recurring high watermarks, and these are a lot of the tentpole actors. So Stallone obviously is one who went through multiple decades because it's big in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. But then you also look at individuals like John Travolta, who is classically referenced as being like really big in the 70s, kind of carrying over slightly into the 80s and then dead. And then all of a sudden, Tarantino pulls him in for Pulp Fiction. Everybody goes, hey, I remember John Travolta. He was fun. Because prior to that, it's like, look who's talking. Which, granted, always wonderful to see him and Bruce Willis pre-Pulp Fiction having some interaction. Whether one's a baby or not, immaterial. So it's really fascinating, interesting stuff to watch. So some of the things that piqued my interest. And speaking of Tarantino, I'm going to give you a big clear on this one because I'm just going to let you determine whether or not this is real. This is the one I was going to give you the title because it's Halloween, and all of these are thrillers or horror films that involve Nicolas Cage, to stay on topic. So this is the one that I felt like if I don't say it, it's the explanation of the film itself is going to run here. But this is Werewolf Women of the SS. So, in a send-up of 1970s Nazi-sploitation films, Rob Zombie's contribution to the Grindhouse film series, helmed by Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez, features an uncredited cameo by Nicolas Cage as Fu Manchu. The trailer voiceover goes as thus, and this is what I had to pull in because I needed to include this as from segment as listed. And it lists the actors who are in the film, and so it's not really going to ruin anything by me saying this. So it's featuring Udo Kier, Sherry Moon Zombie, Tom Tolles, Sybil Danning, Bill Moseley, and Nicolas Cage as Fu Manchu. And then the Fu Manchu line is attributed as, "This is my Mecca. Ah ha 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 ha." So does that sound like something you could envision one Nicolas Cage doing?
I mean, I can envision him doing that. I don't know if he did, though.
Okay.
I don't think he was ever in any Rob Zombie things. Because Rob Zombie wasn't doing any sort of, I didn't even know he did any sort of Nazi exploitation films. So, I mean, that does kind of say how much I know about Rob Zombie. Rob Zombie and his, directorial, thing.
So you haven't seen Witches of Salem then, I take it?
No.
Haven't gotten around to that. No. Not a big fan of The Devil's Rejects, House of a Thousand Corpses.
I know that he did those movies, but again, I haven't seen those. And the only thing I know about House of a Thousand Corpses is that the actor that plays Dwight in The Office is in it. And that's mainly because every time that gets brought up, that gets told on this podcast. I think several times that we have mentioned House of a Thousand Corpses, he somehow gets like, oh yeah, and the guy that plays Dwight is in it. So,
and also stars one of the most famous podcasters and after show co-hosts ever. Yes? No? Were you a fan of The Talking Dead?
No, no. I never watched that.
Oh, okay. Well, then we're just going to completely disregard and move away. It's not going to impress you regardless. So,
is his name Ryan or something? Sorry, I also smell like a burning smell somewhere.
Oh, good.
So
schizophrenia is setting in. Would you like to check on the burning?
No. As soon as I hear screaming, though, I might disappear. But all I smell is burning, so we'll see how that goes.
Okay. Well, that's very, very intriguing. I would like to make sure that you're alive and all is well. So if you need to check, but it is featuring, it's Chris Hardwick from Nerdist,
Oh,
he
okay.
is also
he's the director or the talk show host of.
Correct. Talking
Because that was
Dead.
the reaction one where they'd interview the actors to react to the episode that just aired.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
So if you want to watch Dwight and good old Mr. Nerdist himself, pretty severely mutilated, that's the movie for you. It's a really great film, actually. I'm a big fan of the Rob Zombie oeuvre, obviously. So you're saying no, Nicolas Cage wouldn't stoop so low as to do this.
I'm gonna say no.
Okay. Well, so it wasn't technically a full feature-length film. In Grindhouse, they did commercials. So sort of like coming attractions for other films between the two main features, which is Death Proof by Tarantino. And then I'm going to be horrible and forget what the heck Robert Rodriguez's one was called. So disregard. Moving on. I've proven I am not encyclopedic today. But this is one of the small trailers they did. And also another one was Machete, which eventually was made into a full film because...
Yeah, with Danny Trejo as the main character, right? Yes.
But that was originally just something they threw in as an exploitation film in the oeuvre with Robert Rodriguez, and that was made. Werewolf Women of the SS was featured there, and Nicolas Cage was depicted as Fu Manchu.
Ooh, okay, you're throwing some deep cuts. I'm expecting you to throw like Vampire's Kiss or some easier ones.
Poles at you immediately. Come on.
I figured you'd make it easy and then start ramping up the difficulty, but okay.
I want to keep you interested at the very least.
I'm always interested in Nicolas Cage, so
yes, but that was from 2007. Go peek that trailer out because it's hilarious. It's an awful lot of fun.
Okay.
All right, so the third installment here.
Actually, before you do, I am going to pause this. Okay, I do want to check this. Give me like 10 seconds.
Go for it.
Not burnt.
It's not burnt.
I don't know if you heard her yell that out, but...
No, I didn't hear that.
Everything burnt down there? Anything burnt? No, it's not burnt. Okay.
Oh, yeah, it smells burnt.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
I'll cut all that. Anyway.
Well, on the topic of that, one of my favorite jokes that my mother ever told me, so here's a fun bit of character assassination. There's a young, buxom blonde that marries an older gentleman for his money. Think Anna Nicole Smith, okay?
Okay.
And he is geriatric, on the verge of dying, and she thinks, okay, on the wedding night, as we, really finally get around to what the word has escaped me.
Consummating the marriage.
Thank you. You show how far beaten I am out of my normal brain space. So as they go to consummate the marriage, she's like, if I just give him the hardest lay of his life, he'll probably just die on impact. And then I can just go on for the rest of my life living in the manner I'd like to become accustomed to. So she buys all of the sexiest lingerie she can. She preps herself on the bed, waiting for him to come out. And then he emerges from the restroom, prepared for lovemaking. And he has got... He is wearing nothing but a prophylactic, as you would expect. Don't want any of those last-minute children. And then some nose plugs and some ear plugs. And she's obviously somewhat nonplussed by this as is being presented. And she says, what's going on? He's like, well, we got to be careful. She's like, no, but what's with the headgear? And he's like, there's only two things in this world I can't stand, woman. It's the sound of screaming women and the smell of burning rubber. Just terrible. Great joke, though.
Beautiful.
So... on the subject of burning, we're going to move on to this next installment, which is based on Tim Crabb's The Golden Egg. The film, starring Nicolas Cage, is a deeply disturbing psychological thriller about a young man's search for his girlfriend after she disappeared at a rest stop during a short trip. Over the course of 3 years, the man obsessively searches for her, using his spare time to put up posters and leave handbills, hoping that someone will give him a clue to the mystery surrounding her disappearance. The kidnapper, having watched the man for some time, is intrigued by his increasing obsession and, finally, contacts him. He then gives the man the opportunity to learn firsthand of his girlfriend's fate. Now, whereas the original incarnation of this film has a frightening and chilling conclusion, which is a small masterpiece, with director George Sluicer confronting and examining the true nature of evil and obsession. This, that I am referencing, is Sluicer's remake as an American version of his Dutch masterpiece 4 years after the release of the original, which inexplicably changes the shocking ending, which gave the original film such power. This is evocative of another film that you and I are very big fans of that we can speak of, so it's not outside the realm of possibility for Nicolas Cage.
Definitely not.
The 92 English-language remake follows the same plotline as the original film, yet with one important difference. Where the original film didn't reveal what happened to the girlfriend until late into the film, the 92 version opens with her kidnapper plotting the abduction. Over the course of the film, Cage's search for his lover is intercut with footage of the kidnapper that illustrates both his mental illness and his repeated attempts at abducting other women.
Oh.
So this is from 1992, as I've alluded to here, since I've included that in the description. So that gives you kind of an indication.
Yes, that's more of his early role, like early career.
This still would have been post like Raising Arizona, though. So he was in the known association here.
Raising Arizona, that was in the like 89 or 90?
Yep, I think it's 89.
Okay. Also, really good movie. Really enjoyed it.
Well, obviously. I mean,
John
who doesn't
Goodman.
love the Coen brothers?
Yes. Oh, that was the Coen. Oh, you're right.
I'm shaking my head at you.
I'm sorry. I don't pay attention to those sort of things. I just enjoy
what we're here for.
But yeah. No, wait. Actually, I have to ask. Is that bullshit? Is
No.
it actually the Coen? Oh, okay.
Yep. Cool. Yeah, you're a babe in the woods over here, but yeah. The film before Blood Simple, which was before that, is even more harrowing than that film. It's
wow, and it's a good movie. It's a good portrayal of how I view Tempe even now. And John Goodman and Nicolas Cage, fantastic together.
And they later join up again, if you have not seen, in a film by Martin Scorsese. Bringing Out the Dead, which is they are both operators of an ambulance in New York City. Ooh. And so it goes through shifts. So Cage is the main character, and he has two other individuals, Ving Rhames being the second, and then I'm forgetting the third one. But they give you each different shifts of the night where each of these partners goes with him, and John Goodman is absolutely unhinged, and they are delightful together. It's really great.
Oh, shoot,
so I'll let you borrow it. It's a great film.
Yes. Okay. That one I could definitely see watching because I have a soft spot for John Goodman as well. He's great.
It's a very disturbing film, and there's a lot of stuff in it. But yeah, the portrayals are phenomenal. Great performances, one of my faves. Particularly one of the things I'm attached to for Scorsese. But how about this film from '92? Does this evoke the standard Nicolas Cage formula for you, or is this also too pedestrian for a Cage performance?
No, I feel like something obsessive where he can show high energy. He wasn't this was before Vampire's Kiss, if he was in this movie, because I think Vampire's Kiss was the mid 90s. And that was kind of like, well, actually, I'm not sure when Vampire's Kiss was.
Vampire's Kiss is 1989.
Really? Still? Jeez. Yep. I have no sense of time.
I think Moonstruck would be around the same time for this when he was
Moonstruck is the one I think I was talking about earlier, where he's just like, he flings himself on he kind of looks like an old porn star of some sort.
He does have the mustache, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if that's the one where he yells "hay-fuckin, yeah." I can't remember exactly. It's cutting to some other main character. He's not the main character, but it shows he's like someone that they interact with. I think it might be Moonstruck. Okay. But he's just like punching some guy in the back of a bar, and he just yells "hay-fuckin, yeah!" And
like
he just
you do.
and he just karate chops the guy, and the guy flies off in some other direction.
Somebody's yelling at the screen right now.
Most certainly. Leave a comment. Tell me how stupid I am. I get that a lot. I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna actually say yes. I think he was in this one because I'd rather be all correct, or I'd rather if I'm gonna fail, I'd rather fail 100%.
Okay.
So let's go for it.
You're on a good track because he was not in this film.
Damn it.
What's funny, the cast for this, I actually want to go track this down, both the original, because I haven't seen this film, and it sounds fantastic. So the original sounds amazing, and the original was from 1988. It's a Dutch film, as we mentioned. But the remake stars a young Kiefer Sutherland. His paramour, who is kidnapped, is Sandra Bullock. And the obsessive kidnapper is Jeff Bridges.
Oh.
And 90s Jeff Bridges is some of my favorite acting. He was in a film with Tommy Lee Jones called Blown Away, which is one of my absolute faves. It's ridiculously good. And also stars Lloyd Bridges as the father of his actual son, and is a delightful time. So it's about a gentleman who is obsessed with creating. So Tommy Lee Jones is Irish and was a member of the IRA and is a terrorist. So he makes bombs and sets them off randomly. And Jeff Bridges is on the bomb disposal unit with another cameo appearance by our good friend Ghost Dog, who I'm going to just leave for those who are looking for Easter eggs here. But all I can tell you is I saw half Star Wars. But okay, so moving on to this next film. I'm crossing my fingers for you, Michael. Let's see whether or not you escape unscathed.
Oh, I'm not.
This film follows the story of a yuppie literary agent, Peter Liu, as he descends into madness and vampirism.
Okay, yeah. It's
now,
vampires.
Liu believes he has been bitten by a vampire and is slowly becoming one himself, despite the contrary opinion of his therapist. He then begins to wage a campaign of escalating terror against his secretary and first potential victim, Alva. Alva begs her parents to let her stay home from work to avoid her unusual boss, but of course they force her to go in on a fateful day, and the plot unfolds.
I mean, it's not difficult. You have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z.
This film became a cult item on the basis of Cage's outrageous performance, and at one point he actually eats a live cockroach.
I do recall reading about that. Yeah. No, wait. Was it a cockroach?
It's cockroach, according to this.
Okay. Yeah, no, Vampire's Kiss.
Vampire's Kiss, 1989.
Yeah. Fundamental, yeah. Thank you for giving me a layup.
You're
I appreciate
welcome.
it.
Hey, it's Halloween. If I can't get Vampire's Kiss in here, I should be shot.
I'm a vampire.
So, congratulations, you're on the board, or I should say condolences, you didn't do the full sweep.
It's okay. I don't mind.
You're 1 for 4, but we'll see where we go. Next is a very delightful film. A Milan-based photographer finds his quiet family life suddenly disrupted when a young woman from his past returns to drag him back into the treacherous world of international espionage. Gotta stop doing the movie voice. Jacob Keane, Nicolas Cage, was living the good life before Marta came looking for help. Now it's beginning to look as if lazy days with his longtime boyfriend Paolo and beautiful daughter Julia are about to become a distant memory. Marta has been targeted by a mysterious and resourceful enemy, the same man who will soon threaten Jacob should he fail to act fast. Perhaps with a little help from their former colleague Yale, Jacob and Marta will be able to prevent the villainous Vigo from destroying any more lives than he already has.
This does sound like a Nicolas Cage movie. It kind of has a lot of parallels with The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, but in that one he is actually himself and not a photographer. But that Marta does sound familiar.
Well, Marta, I will give you a little conceit here, because, I mean, this is part of the fun of the game. Marta is portrayed by Shannon Doherty.
I wish that helped, but that name does not ring a bell.
Okay, well, we're moving on. John Rhys Davies plays Yale, their former colleague.
Gimli?
Indeed.
Oh, man.
Bad dates.
Man. I know he's in a lot of other stuff, but that's the only thing I remember him. He's also a couple other characters in Lord of the Rings, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, he is Treebeard, yes.
Yeah, that's
doing
who it was.
The
I was
wonderful
like,
inward breathing thing. That was your attempt?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
That was a half-assed attempt. I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
Let's go for it.
All right. Well, this unfortunately does not star Nicolas Cage.
God damn it.
This is a film called Kiss Me Deadly, which is from 2008, which rings very wonderfully with Vampire's Kiss. But this is not starring Nicolas Cage. I'm sorry.
I need to not go with any intuition. That's if I don't know it immediately, whatever my first thought is, go the opposite.
Well, part of the fun of my coming up with this is finding plot lines that sound completely credible for Nicolas Cage performance. Yeah. Like,
yes.
it's not hard to envision him doing any of these things, which is part of the delight. I have also included in the show notes for those playing the home game here, all of the links to these films from the allmovie.com, so you can go check them out, see where they're available for stream, rental, or watching otherwise, and see, the truth or lies as they manifest. But moving on, are you still holding in okay? Nothing's burnt down, everything's going well?
I'm good. The smell is cleared. I am breathing perfectly fine.
Okay, well, Will, I have so many of these. Again, I always over-prepare, which it's really delightful when
Nothing
things...
wrong with that.
So we will have multiple installments here, as per usual, if we get around to it. But this one, I'm very intrigued by. Also reminds me of another film, but we'll talk about that in a minute. An Alaskan police detective pursues an elusive serial killer who abducts women and frees them in the wilderness to hunt, in this thriller starring Nicolas Cage. A madman has been on the loose in Anchorage for over 13 years, and we're not referring to Sarah Palin.
Mad woman.
Well, that depends on who you ask. But all right,
you're not wrong.
Indeed. So every attempt to capture him has only led to frustration for the local police, but Sergeant Jack Holcomb, Cage, is certain he can succeed where his colleagues have failed. Later, Sergeant Holcomb gets the break of a lifetime when a terrified teen, Cindy Paulson, manages to beat the killer at his own game. Cindy's struggle, however, has just begun. Now, the closer she and Holcomb come to cracking the case, the more cunning the sadistic target seems to grow.
I almost want to ask if this is the plot of Fargo. Is it?
It is not.
Oh, okay. I know very little about Fargo.
Well, to me, this also was, it's evocative of another Christopher Nolan film, which, of course, is a remake of another film, but it's neither here nor there, called Insomnia, which starred Al Pacino and Robin Williams, and Robin Williams was the killer. And great performances by both. Very bravura, as always, but Pacino's at his lit best.
I think Robin Williams actually plays a good villain.
Oh, he's phenomenal.
On occasion. Yeah. He was a villain in a Law and Order episode that I actually remember watching and being very surprised by him just being there. If I recall correctly, I'm fairly certain it was Robin Williams, but he was kind of an unhinged person that was abducting kids. I think it was an SVU episode.
Okay.
So it was. I always loved. My parents loved Law and Order just in general.
Okay.
Watched it all the way back to the original one in the late 80s, early 90s. And so I watched a lot of it as a kid, and I always loved the kind of cameos by big name actors and other things like that.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. They had a lot of that running through the X-Files, where you just have random people showing up, and just, it's something, if you're fond of the show and its quality and you know that you get to kind of put some grit into the performances. Actually, Kevin Smith makes a cameo in a Law and Order.
Really?
At one point. Yes, he insisted he wanted to be the guy that led them to the guy that led them to the killer. So yeah, Kevin Smith's there. Sans beard, which is even more entertaining.
Oh,
so go check that out. But all right, so how do you feel about this one?
My gut instinct says no.
Okay.
So I'm going to say yes.
All right. And you would be correct in not trusting your gut. So yeah, this is a 2013 film also starring John Cusack, which is entitled The Frozen Ground. Well worth exploring. Also stars Vanessa Hudgens and 50 Cent. So if you really want to get some of the classic depictions of characters going through just a full metamorphosis.
Wait, really? 50 Cent?
Yes,
I didn't
really
know he was
50
still
Cent.
acting. I thought he dropped off the radar by
again,
then.
this was 2013, so he was on the way.
Oh, very fair. Because I'm just thinking when he was like making video games, the 50 Cent Blood in the Sand or something like that from like the PlayStation 2 era. So
that's called A Bad Night with Sex on the Beach, I think. But
I mean, it pretty much was. Because he was one of the first. He was one of the first rappers that got into acting, and he kind of started a brief period where like rap artists were joining in.
I mean,
acting.
I'd say there are quite a few progenitors of that movement. Ice Cube being the major, because we had quite a few running prior to that. But
I mean, that's fair. He was in a lot.
And Dre and Snoop were both in Training Day. I mean, you're all over.
Snoop is still like, I think he rose above the occasion of just like, he was always in acting because he just does whatever he wants.
He's a character. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
All right. Huh. Well, this one is, I'm going to call this a layup. And if you don't get this, I'm going to disown you as a friend. So let's just, no pressure or anything, but I feel like this
pressure is on.
In order to escape the hustle and bustle of modern life, Nathan Gardner and his family decide to move to a farmhouse in Arkham. Everything is going well, and the family is settling down nicely when an object from the skies crashed near their property.
Okay.
Soon enough, unexplainable things begin happening, especially to those that are in contact with the entity that landed. It wasn't long until the Gardners also start to feel something changing inside of them.
So I actually haven't seen this one. It's one that I definitely would like to see.
And naturally.
It's Color Out of Space, which does have Nicolas Cage. And
indeed.
A weird fascination with llamas. He has llamas that he breeds.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to judge proclivities, but...
Yeah, but...
If you want to Obama llama your ding-dong there, it's just...
considering how the llamas go out in the movie, it's quite a... They all kind of fuse into one, like, mass...
Okay.
And he has to put them out of their misery.
This makes me think of like that Thanksgiving spinoff that we watched a while back that just had the killer llama with the Superman radar eyes, just laser beaming everybody. But all right, so there you go. You've gotten two. Congrats.
Thank goodness.
All right.
Color Out of Space, definitely worth it though. It's very.
I mean,
it was
based on Lovecraft.
It was by the guy that did The Island of Dr. Monroe.
Richard Stanley.
Yes. He disappeared off the map because that movie was...
Well, that would be Moreau, but we'll not split hairs.
I thought I said it right. I must be having a stroke.
Monroe.
Tomato,
it has
potato.
One of my favorite moments, which is having Val Kilmer do an impression of Marlon Brando in the film, which is just exquisite. But yeah, we'll leave that there. Also, you get to see, Dr. Lupin just in full throws there. Yes, Professor Lupin is the main character in The Island of Dr. Moreau, if you're not familiar.
No idea.
That's
crazy.
See, if you get me talking about movies, we can do this all night. This is going to be a disgusting time, but we'll cap this. I will do another, I think 3 here, and then we'll be done. Because some of these are very lengthy. One of which in particular takes up like a page and a half, and I'm like, okay, well, we'll get to that one and stop. All right, so this one is a controversial horror director, Takashi Miike, who creates an unnerving horror film about a widowed TV producer, Nicolas Cage, auditioning prospective wives. In his search, one candidate particularly stands out, a lovely ex-ballerina dressed in white. The widower cannot believe his good fortune until he starts looking more closely at his potential bride-to-be. Her autobiographical details don't quite check out. She has a number of ugly scars on her legs, and he learns that people in her life have a habit of disappearing unexpectedly. And thus, when he discovers a man trussed up in her living room with his tongue and feet lopped off, he concludes that she's perhaps not the woman of his dreams.
Okay, I feel like I'm actually going to start using these lifelines that you're handing out to me.
Oh, I see.
You offered. What year did
This is
come
from
out?
1999, where we were all partying with
Okay.
Prince.
Okay. And then what is the title of this movie?
Well, I mean, that's
give
a
it away
last. That's a
completely?
no, it's not.
Okay.
It wouldn't totally, but I mean, that's your last ditch bailout here. I will say it was screened at the 1999 Vancouver Film Festival.
Oh, that changes everything.
I'm
I
sure.
know exactly what
this
movies
film.
were.
The film is entitled Audition.
Oh, my gut says no, so I'm going to go opposite of my gut and say yes, he was in it.
You are wrong.
Oh no, my
Yeah.
gut was right for once.
Your gut was right. Yeah, this is not a Nicolas Cage film. This is actually a Japanese horror film.
That makes more sense.
It sounds
That makes a lot
reasonable
more
enough,
sense.
though,
Yeah.
by comparison.
Oh, I could see him in it. Yeah.
Yes, no question. Just walking in and find somebody without a tongue in their feet and like
What is going on
walks
here?
in just directly. He walks in directly, just punches the lady in the face.
I was thinking that too.
So everybody gets the Wicker Man treatment. He's just walking
Oh,
up, just
man.
punching women, just indiscriminately. Hi,
Just-
fucking yeah!
Yeah.
Like he's Miss Piggy on a fucking cocaine bender, just bopping everybody. Hi,
I could see him doing that too.
Yes.
Just like a nice like bump and then just hi fucking yeah.
Kermie.
I actually wouldn't mind to see him portray Miss Piggy in an episode or something or a movie of Muppets. That would be quite hilarious.
It's a terrifying thought.
He tries to affect like a feminine voice and it doesn't work, but he doesn't care.
Just slathered lipstick all over his face.
Everyone else is an actual puppet or Muppet or whatever, and it's just him.
He's just yelling pork me at everybody. I'm the other white meat, motherfucker.
Who you calling a pig?
Well, you, Ebony Darkness Dementia Ravenway.
Oh
you.
no! Hi fucking yeah!
Hi, yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. Stop. All right, this one. These two are going to be very entertaining. All right. Inspired by a segment in another cinema classic, this film takes place in modern-day Manhattan, where decidedly average teen Dave Stutler hones his magical powers under the tutelage of master sorcerer Balthazar Blake. Malevolent wizard Maxim Horvath is determined to claim New York City as his own, and Horvath isn't alone in his diabolical endeavor, because by joining forces with the sinister sorcerer pop illusionist Drake Stone, there's another delightful porn name, he aspires to gain powers beyond his wildest imagination. Realizing he can't take on Horvath and Stone alone, Blake recruits Stutler as his reluctant assistant and begins training him for the battle that will determine the fate of the Big Apple.
Instead of, assistant, would you go so far as to say apprentice?
I might, if I were so pressed into labeling it.
And, I don't know if they're really wizards, but they sound more like sorcerers.
Mm-hmm.
So they would probably be like, so this main character would be like a sorcerer's apprentice of some sort.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now,
I don't think he was in it.
I'm going to shake something at you. For bonus points, tell me what film it was actually based on.
Oh, fuck, I have no idea.
Strangely enough, this is actually a derivative based on the scene from Fantasia where Mickey is animating all of
you're right.
Yeah, the brooms.
Yeah, because it's a Disney. It's a Disney movie. It's one of the
It
few
is.
movies that he's done with Disney aside, because that was when he was on like a Disney shtick. Because it was also around the same time that he was doing National Treasure, and Ghost Rider, technically, Marvel wasn't owned by Disney at that point. But
Yeah, and I think that was also a Fox property, but, neither here nor there.
that could be. Who knows?
Yeah. So congratulations. I tried to give you a couple layups, plus that was the one that, as I said it, Melissa's eyes lit up. She's like, ooh, I liked that one. So, yeah, I had to have some inclusions here that would make sense.
Surprisingly, never saw it.
Well, you know,
I heard
the
good
hair
things about it.
alone is a selling point. Yeah, just one of those things.
That was one of his. That was like his like Chad Kroger kind of like long wavy hair days, right? Okay.
Back when the follicles had somehow been, just revivified in order to allow him to have hair. But,
I wonder why.
So, the final one I think we will do this evening because we have bled this thing significantly, and I'm on page 6 of the 15 pages that I had prepped. So here we are. This is one of the more delightful depictions, so it just bear with me. This muddled attempt at creating a new supernatural serial killer franchise in the mode of Freddy Krueger and Nightmare on Elm Street features perennial movie maniac Nicolas Cage as sadistic mass murderer Max Jenke, who hacked up more than 100 victims with a meat cleaver before his eventual capture by dedicated cop Lucas McCarthy. Unwilling to cease his homicidal spree after his death, Jenke had been conducting bizarre experiments in soul transference prior to his capture. His execution in the electric chair subsequently transforms his evil essence into electrical current. In this new form, the seemingly unstoppable maniac launches a supernatural siege against McCarthy and his family until the tormented cop finally faces him down on his own nightmare turf. Originally conceived as another House sequel, this film consists of long periods of tedium punctuated by outbursts of graphic gore and surreal effects. This condition is partially the result of footage being shot by 2 separate directors. It seems as if neither of them knew what the other was doing. Cage is amusingly sleazy as the cackling madman, but his one-note material is not compelling enough to merit a recurring character.
So when you were describing this actually brought to mind a more recent, really terrible horror movie. I can't remember exactly. I think it's something like Drone. So the idea is a serial killer was put to death by electric chair.
All right.
And he did something at the last moment where his essence was kind of electrified. And so he possessed a drone that would just harass the main character incessantly. It's a very corny, like on par with,
Thanksgiving
Thanksgiving. Yeah, where it's that kind of genre where it's some sort of possessed item or something like that exacts vengeance, like what was it, Rubber, or, that sort of vagueness. I want to say he's in this, but I don't know what movie this is. I will tell you,
it is from the year 2009.
I'm gonna say yes.
Okay, you would be wrong.
I went with my gut, and I trusted my gut once, and that's what I get. I deserve that.
And in point of fact, I did fib. It's actually a 1989 film, which stars Brian James and Lance Henriksen. So, we went full bore there, but it sounded far too brilliant to avoid. But yes, a madman who converts himself into electricity. Like a bad Spider-Man character.
Yeah. But especially the late aughts, so definitely when he was on his downturn.
I figured that would give you a little bend, yep.
Taking anything that flew his way. There's a reason why in the early 10s, late aughts, there was a joke that he would sign up for anything that his agent threw at him. So,
yep.
Yeah, that sounded exactly like something you'd be like, you know what? I can't afford to buy any more dinosaur bones. So fuck it, let's go with this this terrible movie. I need a paycheck. So, well,
I mean, it almost feels criminal for us to go out on a loss there. It's terrible.
Most except for the 2 obvious ones.
Well,
all losses.
We'll go back here and we'll run. So, 8mm, you got wrong. Werewolf Women of the SS, you got wrong. The Vanishing, you got wrong. Vampire's Kiss, you got. Kiss Me Deadly was wrong. The Frozen Ground, wrong. Color Out of Space, correct. And then Audition, wrong. Sorcerer's Apprentice, correct. And now the horror show, also wrong. Which, if I didn't mention, yes, that is the title of the film, The Horror Show.
Wow, that's super generic.
Yes, worked perfectly. But, okay, well, thank you for playing along. I know this was kind of a last-minute pivot for us out of another idea that we had, but I figure it worked appropriately for Halloween and is not exactly, just dedicated to the festivities, but it's evergreen as a topic, and obviously we have plenty of grounds and depths to plumb by going through the filmic career of Mr. Cage here, so it should be delightful times going forward.
Yeah, and if the audience enjoys it, I can come up with a couple of things to quiz you on as well.
I was going to say, it's a game I would enjoy playing, as opposed to just sitting as the voyeur knowing the answers.
Mm-hmm. That would be fun. I would probably do something like find, I don't know, not necessarily a director that you're, infatuated with because you know everything.
I wouldn't say everything by any stretch. That's part of the fun. Is like, even, I think we've talked about some of these things you go through, I've gotten at best maybe like 50 to 55 of the Nicolas Cage movies when I'm taking some of these things, and I'm like, that's a really broad swath of films to remember. There's still another, like 40 to 50 I don't know. So it's like, if that's any evidence, it's almost impossible to know someone's entire oeuvre. I think the person I have the best exposure rate with, who I've gotten the highest score with, is Tom Hanks, because that's someone who has just been a perennial tentpole actor from the moment he got into the business. Is like, you can easily flight back to, okay, let's think of the first things that he was in. Like, all right, Bachelor Party, Splash, Dragnet, The Money Pit, Joe versus the Volcano, like all of these things in the 80s, really easy. And he's just been at the top of the run the entire time. I don't know that he's made bad films. So,
well, his first leading role.
Well, yes, but still, that was a television film, and we don't consider it part.
D&D Panic episode for further information, listeners.
He gave a very stirring performance emotionally there, I will say.
I don't even remember what the movie was called. It wasn't D&D, it wasn't Dungeons and Dragons, but it was something similar.
I looked it up fairly recently, and I can't remember either, so it shows what impact it had on the both of us.
I'm just glad it didn't tank his career, because...
Wasn't it like Wizards and something, or Dragons and something?
It was Wizards. Yeah, Wizards and something like that. Yeah.
All right, remember. Well, I have a computer right in front of me. I will actually do a little research here.
Okay.
Mazes and Monsters.
Thank you. Mazes and Monsters.
Close enough. Good enough for government
masterpiece.
Work. Yeah. I was actually thinking of one of my favorite Tom Hanks films, which is not frequently spoken about these days, but is perfect for the time of year. If you haven't already seen it, for the listeners out there, I'm sure you have, knowing your love of cinema. But The Burbs. If you haven't seen The Burbs, you need to be suitably chastened. It's delightful, but it's about this sort of creepy family that moves into a suburban neighborhood, and everyone assumes that they are dispatching people in their backyard because they're basically digging up graves. And so it's Tom Hanks and the usual suspects of the neighborhood trying to determine what's happening. And at one point they bring out several large sacks of garbage, take them and drive them down the street to a dumpster, and then they put them into the dumpster and they bang on them with like a shovel handle to get them stuck in there. And the inimitable line, it's one of the quotes everybody throws from Tom Hanks for that movie, is like, I've never seen that. I've never seen somebody drive their garbage down and bang the hell out of it with a stick. I don't know what the hell's happening. So it's exquisite. It's awful and yet marvelous at the same time. So pure 90s. Not quite the height of all of the greatest of cinema, but entertaining nonetheless.
Okay.
Well, I think that is going to officially wrap it up like a body that you are desperately trying to slam into a refuse receptacle. And so, of course, as always, if you've appreciated the show and enjoyed yourself, please like, subscribe, rate, and review. We would love to hear from you.
Woo!
There's a link tree in the show notes below, so you can go check out all of our relevant socials, including our unending stream of entertainment you can find over on the Tubes of You, our occasional TikTok madness, and the euphoria that was our Instagram before I finally put a bullet in its brain. But, we'll keep you entertained for hours if you allow us. And, of course, we also, in addition to Michael's shorts, have got random ephemera over on the Tubes of You, including Disinformed After Dark, our book club discussions, which I think going forward we could basically just call it the Kingsmen and pivot there to steal some trademark titles. But
True.
Eventually we'll get around to talking about Salem's Lot, which we had slated for some discussion.
I'm making my way very slowly, but making my way through it.
And then you got the Talisman waiting on that. So
yeah, the Talisman right behind me, knocking on it.
Right here and now.
Wood.
You're touching it right here and now. Yes.
Right here, right now. Laws, yes.
Laws,
right
yes.
here, right now.
Well, so go scope all these things, have some fun with us, because we certainly have had some fun with you this evening, and that is going to officially put us into the casket for a happy Halloween for all of you listening in the contemporary moment, and for those of you listening in the future, a spoopy time regardless. You are looking at us. And so for another crazy, cagey episode of Disinformed this week, I'm Shane.
And I'm Michael. And zippity zoop, we're out of here.
Hay-fuckin, yeah!